Alright, so a few months ago I made a video about having to disown my family. Well, my parents, most specifically. Now, in that two-part video, I was still kind of frazzled. Everything was still somewhat fresh. I think it was I made the video after maybe 4 months or so, and then no, I think it was, oh shit, I think it was almost 11 months ago that I had to disown my parents. I'm not 100% sure. It's been a long time. Well, relatively speaking. Um, However, I figured now that things have settled down in my head when it comes to this. A lot of people have been wondering where I am as far as the stream goes with TCT Comics and all that stuff. Um, I have put myself on hiatus because I have been under an immense amount of mental issues lately, and I've kind of put myself in a hiatus for a little bit. Um, but that's not what this video is about. That's a whole different video. Um, this video is coming clean about some of the things that were going on behind closed doors that people don't understand, because they saw my family. They knew it was dysfunctional. They knew my family was fucked up, but they don't know the degree. My parents, about 2 years ago, started to lose me as their son, I believe, simply because some things came out about my dad. Apparently, he has some weird tastes in sex, to say the least, that bordered on almost pedophilic, in my opinion. And I saw the pictures. I saw the torture porn. I saw the borderline snuff film stuff, and a lot of other things that were on a tablet that I had to go through because my mom wanted us to see what she found. This whole situation resulted in my sister and I having to give depositions to federal agents and, do that whole shebang, because it was borderline. It was things that it was. I don't kink shame. I don't have a problem with people that like specific things or into bondage or anything like that, but this was damn near torture porn. And to find that out about my dad was not surprising, because I had listened to that stuff growing up my entire life. My mom had told me, usually after their arguments, about some of the things that she had found in the past and all this other shit, including a trunk that he used to have. Now, in this trunk that he had was stuff that was really fucked up, like amputee porn, stuff that snuff films, fucking things that were just disgusting. Like, even it was beyond what would be considered healthy sexual. And it was some quite disgusting things. And my mom also had seen him do things that was disgusting. He would offer to take care of my sister or me when we were babies, and then jerk off instead of while we were in the same room as babies, rewatching a fucking milk commercial or something of some chick jogging. There's I never felt any emotion with my dad. I never felt any love or compassion from the man. And no, my parents never beat my sister or I. They never laid a hand on. Well, my mom laid hands on me one time, but that was that's a situation that's going to be in a different video. And that time almost got me arrested, or at least scared that I was going to be arrested for defending myself. About 3 years ago, I think it was 2018, was when this happened. And we finally convinced my mom, because she called me. I was just getting out of work, and she had told me that my dad had been walking around a town about 22 minutes away from where they lived. He was just wandering around the town. She was getting phone calls from people saying, is your husband all right? That kind of shit. So I drove a half hour and then found my dad, put him up at a hotel for the night, and then I went to my mom's house. Almost got arrested because the officer that pulled me over thought I was stalking an old man and harassing him. And I had to explain to him, no, that's my dad, and he's being a stubborn asshole. So there's that. However, when I got to my mom's house after dropping him off, my mom showed me the tablet. She showed me the computer towers that she had been hiding from him, because over the years he had been caught several times looking up porn. And I thought it was just regular stuff that she was catching him, and she had an issue with it. I mean, both my sister and I were basically raised to see viewing porn as unhealthy and not conducive to a healthy sexual relationship. Nowadays, that's perfectly normal. And it took a lot for my sister and I to grow out of that mindset of, oh no, they're watching porn, they don't want to have sex with us anymore, they don't want to do it, they don't, like, our significant others don't want to do anything with us or anything, that kind of shit. And that kind of thing fucks with you. Now, I tell you this because I need to get it out of my head, and I need people to understand the kind of trauma that can cause. Not only was I seeing actual proof, because for the longest time we just thought my mom was nuts about a lot of the stuff, but all throughout my childhood, all throughout it, I heard arguments all day, all night, about porn, about, were you looking at some chick that was walking down the street, that's somebody's daughter on TV, that kind of stuff, when it's a bikini model, somebody that is blatantly showing off their body, that kind of stuff. And it, like, I was basically raised to be a therapist to a very sick woman and a very sick father. My mom, I loved my mom. I did. However, that woman was bipolar, an alcoholic, and had no problem doing pretty much whatever party drug that somebody was going to offer her. I mean, she had some limitations, obviously, but I never saw that woman shy away from a trip or a bump or a joint. In fact, she smoked pot on a regular basis, which was one of the few things that kept her relatively calm after an argument. But I would basically from the age of like 8 or 11, somewhere around there, I would hear the argument. I would hear the things being broken. I would hear the shit being thrown. I would hear the arguments of what the argument was about. I would see my dad just sit there and take the berating and the yelling, and my mom hitting him and that kind of shit. I saw all this. Was not a very healthy situation, obviously. Not a good time. And fight after fight, I would go down and I would listen to I would wait for my mom to come out to open the door to the computer room. The house, it was, as soon as she went in there, I knew she was doing something because the whole house smelled like weed. So I knew something had happened or an argument had started or something. Well, for about a year prior to my mom calling, to that day of us, going over to my mom and finding out all the stuff that he was looking up, my mom had been acting very strange around my dad whenever we were over. She kept an eye on him, like it was strange. Like, even I knew something was fucked up because this was weird even for them. And when I saw the tablet and I swiped through all the tabs, my dad didn't need a whole hell of a lot to go off of in order to try to squeeze one out. And the implication of what I was saying between the torture porn and the little kids section of whatever Bing search bullshit he was looking up, because he wasn't using Google, he was using Bing, because it was easy in his mind. It was easier to clear the cache so that nobody would see it. But there were probably about 15 tabs open, and like one or two would be torture porn. The next would be like kids in jeans and a t-shirt or a crop top or some shit like that. I don't know, like young kids. And then torture porn, and same thing. It was a fucking pattern. Like I saw what I saw what was happening. And I had to then go and pick my father up from the hotel that I had just paid $220, $210, somewhere around there, dollars, so that he didn't have to come home and deal with that. So, knowing what I knew, I had to go pick him up, and then I drove him home, where then when he came home, he went directly upstairs, and that was it. That was the man. Whenever he was confronted about something that was fucked up about him, would just shut down and say, "Oh, well, fine, I'm just gonna go walk and disappear." He wasn't going anywhere. He was basically walking to try to pull pity points, basically, at this point. And I do not tolerate that kind of shit anymore. So, probably 20 minutes later, my mom goes upstairs and apparently caught him spanking one out. And then he got up, tried blaming her, and then walked out the door. Now, I'm already pissed off at both of them. A, for my dad looking at the things that he was looking at. B, the fact that I just paid $200 and something for a one night stay at a hotel for him, which basically he was probably spanking it all night long. And C, that my mom knew about this, had found the tablet, and was lying to me about it, and lying to everybody about it for over a year before finally coming clean about it. So they took the tablet along with my niece and my sister, they all went to the state troopers and reported it, but the state troopers didn't do anything about it. They said, "Oh, nothing looks suspicious about it. The girls are of age in those videos," but it's not the fact that it was just the torture porn. It's the fact that it was torture porn right next to the little girls' kids section of some catalog. That's what the fucking issue was, and they didn't do nothing about it. So fast forward a couple of months, my mom still hasn't kicked him out, and she's like, well, legally I can't, and financially I kind of need him because the retirement money is what pays the mortgage and all that other shit. It's like, you do realize that there are fucking programs for situations just like this. Like, if you you can divorce him, you can get some sort, he has to be able to give you enough money to survive, that kind of shit. It's, there are things that could have been done. Well, every time that conversation came up, and any time I had to go over, she'd be like, well, I'll have your dad just stay upstairs. You don't have to interact with him. And she had this fucking mindset that was okay. The day that they went, I was left home alone with him out in the field somewhere, just hiding, or out in the barn, or wherever the fuck he was hiding. And I seriously considered just going out there and killing him myself. For all the things. Everything. I watched the man break my mom's back. I saw that. This man blackmailed me because when I was 13, I had a porn stash. Oh no. A 13-year-old boy has, softcore porn that he recorded off of Cinemax. Yeah. That was, but having been raised in a house where my mom would throw shit and become violent at seeing the stuff, this man tried to blackmail me, and it was during a really bad argument, and my mom told me to go find him. I found him. He was outside, and I was trying to get him to come back inside, and he looked at me and he said, if you do not take my side on this, I'm going to tell your mother about your porn stash. And I froze. Like, is he seriously doing this right now? So I went inside and I did what any kid that was, scared would do. I mean, I did not want to, but I told my mom, I'm like, Mom, I have porn in my room, and Dad just threatened to use that in order to get me to be on his side. She then told me to go upstairs and bring it down there so that she could see the tapes, and then told me to destroy them, which I did. And then they got into a physical fight. I tried to pull him off of her, and when I got him back, he grabbed me by the shoulder, and his thumbnail, I think it was this shoulder, I'm pretty sure it was this shoulder, cut my shoulder open. And I had a scar there, but I have it covered with a tattoo now. And I went upstairs, grabbed my little pistol target crossbow thing that I had. I loaded it. And by the time I got back downstairs, he was on top of her again, and they were hitting each other, and he was hurting her. And I did what any son would do when he saw his mom being hurt. I threatened to shoot him with a crossbow. And I ended that argument that way. I am not proud of that. I am not happy about that. But it is something that is in my head constantly, and that argument goes through my head every fucking day when I'm not, well, that among other ones, at least once a week it pops into my head. And it's very traumatic because I had to not only do that, but the night that my dad broke my mother's back, which I believe was after that argument, probably I think it was a couple of months after that. I was downstairs watching TV or sitting there listening to them argue again because at that point I knew my dad was capable of violence against my mom. And I had to keep an eye out. And he grabbed her, and before I could do anything, I heard my mom shout, and then I heard her say, "You're hurting me." And as I got to the base of the stairs, I heard him say, "I know." And he squeezed harder, and I heard a crack. I called the police. Now, at this point, our family did not have a good track record with the police because the police came in during another argument that I had called the police on, which resulted in my mother being beaten in front of me by the cop. He broke her pelvis, maced her, and dragged her out of the house before beating her against the cop car, slamming the back door on her leg, broke her pelvis, and then they shacked her up in the psych ward because he clearly was abusing his authority at that point. And then they decided to lock her up in a psych ward for a week. I didn't go to school that entire week. Now, most people are saying, well, you just took advantage of that. No, I was serious. Like, that was so traumatizing that I could not function. I zoned out for a fucking week. My dad was just going to work like nothing had happened. And that bothered me. That he was perfectly fine with the fact that my mother was just beaten in front of us, maced, and had her pelvis broken. But that's a whole different story. Well, after he broke her back, I called the police because I didn't know what else to do. I think I was like 14 at the time. I was a kid. No, I wasn't 14. I was 16 at the time, I think. And I was a kid. I didn't know what else to do. So I told my mom that I called the cops to have dad arrested. And then she got scared and ran out to the field and was hiding with a broken back. When the cops finally showed up, I had found my mom before the cops showed up, and my mom told me to not tell the cops what happened because she didn't want my father taken away and some other bullshit. She didn't want to get arrested herself because she instigated the fight or whatever the fucking cause was. And when the cop stopped me on the side of the road, I had to lie to this cop in order to protect my mom because I saw what the cops did to her the last time and I didn't want her going through that again. I'm not happy about that. Telling your son at 16 they have to lie to the cops to protect a man that broke your mother's back. Because for some reason this woman, after all of the shit, after everything she caught him doing, after everything that he did to her and they did to us, she still was siding with him. Now, I tell you that story because it leads into why I was so bothered at the fact that my mom, even after catching him, having gone to the police, showing them the tablet, delivering 3 fucking computer towers that had locked files that had to have passwords in order to get into them that my dad had made that were just full of fucking horrible torture porn shit. And she still sided with him because of something stupid as money. It was so surreal. Like, I would enter into a fugue state just going over there to do work for my mom because she needed help to do things. She had her hands were disabled, so it's not like she could do a hell of a lot with her hands. She was still recovering from a back injury that was never properly treated, a broken pelvis that was never properly treated. I felt like I needed to at least help take care of my mom, but she still took his fucking side, still defended him, still tried to make it sound, oh, well, I shouldn't have said what I said, I shouldn't have done what I done. The fuck? What the fuck? So, a few months, not a few months, about a year passes or whatever, and she sends me a message about something that I went and helped them, that I paid a friend of mine in order to come out and help, and we had to move a bunch of tools and a bunch of other shit and a couple of machines that we got from my mom's uncle. I'm not sure what that makes him to me, but fucking, we moved all this stuff, and I was told that I would have access to all this. And the argument started because she was like, would you mind if we sold the machinery, because you haven't touched it? And I told her the reason I haven't touched it is because every time I come there, he's there. We've told you, get him out of there. We don't want him there. That's not a healthy or a safe environment. Oh, well, I can't do that legally. I can't tell him to leave his own house. He pays the... It's like, whatever, Mom. There's ways to get around it. You just don't want to fucking do it. And she still took his side, still tried to defend him. So, after that whole argument, where essentially I ended up just telling her, listen, I'm done with this shit. Go ahead and fucking sell it. I had already offered to give her the $2,000 to pay for the car repair, because they wanted to sell the tools so they could repair their car. I told her, I will give you the $2,000. I have it. I will give you the $2,000 to fix your car. You don't have to sell anything. And she's like, no, that's fine. We don't need your money. And then 2 weeks later, fucking sends me this message. And yeah, I was a little pissed because I wanted to learn how to use that tool, but I couldn't get to it because I had been told to pile a bunch of shit on top of it. That on top of all of that stuff, he was still there. And I did not want to be around him any more than I was fucking having to be. So an argument ensued, and then my mom basically told me to not only get all my tools out of the barn, but take all of the scrap metal that I was using for sculptures, including the sculptures themselves, and get rid of them, get them off the property. I said okay, and I said I had to make a few phone calls then in order to get a truck or a trailer or something so that I can do that. To which she started responding with, no, it's got to be on my terms. It's got to be when I'm available. And I told her, Mom, you live in the middle of fucking nowhere. You don't go anywhere. And you're always home. So you're telling me that none... What the fuck? Like, just stupid ass shit. I'm like, okay, fine, whatever. And I told her I found a truck and I found a trailer. I can come up this weekend. She's like, no, that doesn't work for me. That doesn't work for me. And I'm like, well, when does work for you? I don't know. It's going to have to be under my terms, though. And I'm like, you know what? Fine, fuck it. You want to play this game? Whatever. Go ahead, call somebody, have it scrapped, keep the fucking tools, sell the tools. I don't fucking care. I'm done. And that was the end of that conversation. This woman decided to choose staying by a possible pedophile other than her, instead of siding with her own children. After that argument with me, she then attacked my niece, like over Messenger about something. I don't know the whole situation with that, but my sister sent me the screenshots from that conversation, and basically my sister and my niece told my mom to fuck off too and disowned her. So that's the reason why I no longer speak to my parents. I haven't spoken to them in close to a year at this point, I think. I mean, I know I made those videos a couple of months ago, but I didn't rewatch them before making this video. So I think those were made a couple of months after that. So it's been at least 6 to 8 months, something like that. And I'm finally to the point. I mean, I'm talking to a trauma therapist once a month for about 45 minutes. About 45 minutes. So it's not like I really get anything really done. It's more or less to just vent. But they already know all this stuff. And I figured that for those of you that are interested as to why I have a few issues, this kind of will put some of that into perspective. And this is going to be one of many videos that I'm going to release about what it was really like growing up in that family. So, welcome to part 3 of the disowning my family and why. So, I will see you in the next video, guys. Bye.